Hey Team Worldwide, welcome back to Roger Dunn Santa Ana. We are here on the driving range today with Harry Nodwell from Wilson. He is the product manager. Thanks for coming out, buddy.
No, I appreciate you coming, having me out here.
Awesome. We've actually found a willing participant. We've got Thomas over here who is going to hit some balls and demonstrate what the Wilson irons do for you golfers out there. Harry, lead us in with what we're going to do here today.
Yeah, so we've got our range from blades up to game improvement, and just we want to look at spin, launch, strike locations, just see what kind of products do and how they perform with Thomas.
This is for you guys out there who haven't necessarily given Wilson a try. You know, we're here at Roger Dunn, we've got so many options. Wilson is definitely something you should be thinking about. We're going to use Thomas here to help guide you through which irons you should be looking at and hopefully getting a fitting for. Let's kick it off with the staff blade.
Yep.
Okay, we've just picked a shaft. We're going to keep the same shaft for you today to test with. This is a Dynamic Gold 115, so it's kind of in the middle. So let's just hit a few shots with each club and give us a bit of your feedback. So give us your feedback about the look down at this. Is this something that you would pick up and try?
So this club is really thin. I feel like the head face is really thin.
Yeah. Okay. And do you like the look of that?
Yes. And this helps me keep the club face like straight. So I think this helps me a lot.
Well, let's hit a few with this and see what you get numbers wise.
Does this head feel like intimidating to you? Does it look comfortable?
Well, this is very light. So this is like different head face and the head like weight than I normally use.
Okay.
So normally I use like something very heavy. So this is way lighter. Easy to control too.
How far do you normally carry your 7-iron?
Probably like 160 to 150.
Okay, good. And when you're on the golf course, what's your divot pattern? Do you take like really big divots? Do you take no divots? Somewhere in between?
Probably like in between.
Okay, so you take not like a nice divot?
Yeah.
And then do you try and shape shots a lot, or do you just try and hit pretty straight?
Just trying to hit pretty straight.
Okay.
Jack, the cool thing about this is the blade in our CB is more traditional lofts, right?
Yeah.
Blade is going to be less forgiving compared to the CB, but playerish at address. So the cool thing about it, you can bend them to whatever loft you want, right? So if you ended up spin and launch is good, you want to get a little bit more distance out of the say blade, if that's kind of the one that you want to go into, we can bend them to whatever specs they want them to, lie angle, loft.
Super soft.
Yeah.
Good looking. I like that high polished finish. We're actually seeing in here, like Thomas is super consistent with this strike. Sounds pretty good, quiet sound, like that blade kind of feel. And the dispersion's
pretty tight.
Really tight.
Yeah.
One of the key things I look at with the iron fitting is that spin rate consistency, that stopping power, and you know, even that shot right there. This is a miss hit. We obviously want to make that as good as possible for players, but it's really that control play.
Yeah. With
this blade and the CB with that higher loft off the rack, definitely geared towards more stopping power.
100%. Better descent angle, better spin, consistency on top. You know, you're not exactly going after the big distance play. You're trying to dial in your dispersion from front to back.
Okay. Well, Thomas, let's swap you over into the CB model, and Harry, just lead us into a little bit of the difference between this blade versus that CB.
Yeah.
So what are we going to see with the main changes here?
So same loft structure, because we've comboed these to potentially have these at the lower end of the bag and then CBs at the top end of the bag. But what we've obviously got in that CB is a little bit more stability on the perimeter. So same loft structures, so you can blend them easily, but you're going to get a little bit more forgiveness out of this CB that we're going to put them into.
Just the miss hits with that
100%.
Weight around the edge.
Yeah. And one thing about when we look at the blade compared to the CB, you've got CG, we've pushed it out towards that toe.
Okay.
So even though that the blade, it potentially is a harder club to hit, with all that weight pushed out the toe to hit those better fades, that's what it's kind of designed to do, but it also adds MOI. So on miss hits, they're very more forgiving. So I personally believe that that blade is the most forgiving blade on the market.
We actually saw some of that. We did some robot testing back at Cool Clubs, and we see the dispersion circles.
Yeah.
Super tight with these, even though like we can see the center of gravity of the club is definitely a little more towards the heel on the blade and the CB. but that offered some really good forgiveness in the heel, and the toe was not dropping off like some of these blades that we do see.
Yeah, and when you come to the CB, the location's very similar to that blade, just a little bit more stability around the perimeter.
The other thing that might be good, I mean, Thomas said that his divots are kind of in the middle. He's not super steep or super shallow. You've obviously got kind of like a thinner sole section on the blade, and then it starts working up with more camber, more surface area. So this is
going to be an interesting one. This is going to be a cool one to see.
Give us your feedback as you're hitting this. I'm just going to tag it so we can track the shot dispersions. How did you feel with that shot?
This is very smooth.
Smooth?
When I'm trying to bring it down with my waist, it comes really fast. It's like pretty whippy too.
And we do want to see some of that missed hits.
100%,
right?
we want to see it. Yeah.
I don't think we've seen anything that's been like quite as crisply struck as the blade with this model yet, but they're all going in the same spot.
They are, they're just a little shorter on those miss hits.
Yeah, and that's a byproduct, like, it just hasn't got that ball speed touch on it that we had with the blade. There we go, let's see what this thing does.
Yeah,
that was a good shot.
Way better.
And you wouldn't expect to see much distance difference between the blade and the CB.
The only distance you're probably going to see difference is on miss hits, right? So you might see a little bit further compared to the blade, but they're very similar. It's very comfortable.
You built them to be blended.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So far, Thomas, which would be your preference, you know, of the look and the feel of the first and the second club?
Probably I'll go with the first one. It's
Okay.
so much lighter and it's way more smoother.
You like that thinner looking blade?
And I'm seeing the range. The first one goes farther.
Okay. Well, that last one you hit there was kind of about the same distance as the blade.
Yeah.
One more with this and we'll swap you to the next one. Okay.
And the cool thing about this, Thomas, is we can dial in lofts, right? So if you don't see distance potentially but you do with the forgiveness on the CB, we can strengthen in the CB a little bit so you get the distance that you want as long as the spin and launch is where we want it to be.
You had one miss hit with the blade out there kind of to the right, but we can take a little overview now before we jump to the next one. So your ball speed was pretty much identical between the blade and the CB. Your launch was a little higher with the blade. The spin rate was a little higher with the CB, which I'm a big fan of, keeping that spin up with the iron. And in total distance was exactly the same, 153 carry average. And that's great because you kind of said that's where roughly you're at with your 7-iron. Let's try the next one on the list, which is going to be the Dynapwr Forge.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And what kind of category are we moving into here?
So we've gone from players from CB and blade to a player's distance iron. So this is going to be a little bit more of a distance play while still being forgiving at the same time. So a little bit more playerish at address compared to, say, a Game Improvement one or Dynapwr. Thicker top line and a little bit wider sole compared to your CB and blade, but that's where the player's distance falls into.
And that's that category, Love, like it's perfect for this environment, right?
100%.
We've got great players and then you've got people that are kind of entering the game. This iron is filling that gap when people are transitioning their skills, you know, from just starting out through to like what Thomas has been using here.
Or the opposite way, from players that have been playing blades and CBs and need a little bit of distance and a little bit of help.
Yep.
So you see a big cross contamination in the middle there.
Awesome. I'm excited to see what this one does.
Yeah.
I'll have to swap it over. So you can actually see some different technology in here. Obviously, we've got the badging in the back, which is kind of insert into the cavity, and we've got some slots in the sole. What have we got going on?
Yeah, so our Dynapwr line is very technology built, right? So we've got power holes in this one, so it's a new power hole design where it allows the face to flex and push ball speeds up, right? So you're not going to see them in the 8 down the pitch wedge and gap wedge. You're going to see them from 7 upwards.
Perfect.
Because you want to dial in, go after pins on your shorter irons, but in the longer irons, you need that little bit of forgiveness and a little bit more consistency down the range.
And the ball speed helps keep the ball in the air with those longer irons, not knuckling out.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of technology going in between this with the power holes, the variable face thickness, a lot of stuff's going into this small iron.
One more thing is also this sole width starts to increase even more. We've got the smallest with the blade and CB, and now we've got the Forge, is kind of that little bit more surface area.
A little bit more.
Okay, let's do it.
So that one to me sounded a little heavy.
Heavy, yeah, like early in the mat.
Just a little bit, but we're looking at the distance. It's right where the CB and that would kind of be.
And they're on their best shots.
Exactly.
What is the loft difference from the CB and the blade here compared to the forged in the 7.9?
So we're up about 1.5 degrees to 2 degrees off memory. So we're a little bit stronger compared to the staff model and CB and blade. So it's going to be a little bit stronger, so it is going to come out a little hotter, a little bit more distance. But with the power hole construction and variable face thickness, we shouldn't see too much drop in spin compared to the blade and CB.
Okay.
You will see, obviously, a little bit less, but not where you're coming out low.
Right.
You've still got a good descent angle. It's still going to stop on those greens, but you're going to gain that bit of distance.
Yeah. And we you know, descent angle for everyone out there, it's the ball, the angle the ball's hitting the ground at. We want to keep it mid 40s kind of minimum, high 40s is a good place to control it. And we've been seeing that 43, 44 degree mark, you know, kind of all round, even with that last shot there, 43 degrees.
Yeah.
Thomas, we know you like the look of the first two, you know, the kind of blades. How do you feel about this, changing shape a bit?
This one's way thicker, so it feels like the ball's like actually pressing onto the head.
Okay. Different feel off the face.
Yeah.
Do you feel more confident with the bigger shapes or the smaller shape?
The bigger one.
You do? Okay, great. I mean, that's what a lot of people feel, right? A little more surface area to play with. Okay, have a break there. I'm interested to see what these numbers do as a group. So we had kind of 111 ball speed average with the blade and the CB. This has given you that 3 miles an hour extra across the board, so that's a decent distance pickup normally. We did see that spin trade off a little bit, which is natural when you deal off the club, right?
Yep, 100%.
But we still saw that descent angle in that similar mid-40 range, so we're not hurting too badly there.
But then when you look at the launch, it's actually gone up for launch angle. So you're peaking higher, ball speed, that's what the technology is doing. It's allowing it to launch a little bit higher. Spin comes down a little bit, but the descent angle's there that is going to stop it on the dime on the greens.
Provided, you know, we really wanted to keep that ball landing at the right angle.
Yeah.
Spin is great. Spin also allows you to kind of move the ball a little bit as well when needed, but this is going to be a more forgiving play, and that bigger package that you like looking at still gives you the benefits and stopping power of those blade kind of models. You picked up in distance here, on average, 11 yards from the CB and the blade to this forge model. When people think about that, and we've talked a little bit about this D-loft story, if we said that 11 yards was one full club change, you would normally have to see 4 degrees of club bend to achieve that. And we've only talking about 1.5 to 2 degrees, so we're really seeing the technology of this head play through, and like the ball's coming off quicker with the tech in the head, not just a D-loft story. 100%.
That's why this category of players distance hits so many golfers, right? It's because they need a little bit of help in the distance category, but don't want to sacrifice descent angle, launch, and stop and power on the greens.
And we've still got that beautiful visual, that high polished look. It looks like a real good golf club.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a compact player-ish dress. So we see that loads of golfers coming down and going up into this category.
Yeah, and it was lucky. We pulled Thomas off the range. He's a good golfer.
Yeah.
So we're only probably going to take one more step up in your line. We know that we've got that Dynapwr Max to go to, but let's go to the Dynapwr and use it as the biggest example for Thomas.
Exactly, and then we look at the data and we compare more.
Yeah, let's do it. So, I mean, straight off the bat, I've talked a little bit about sole. This obviously is the widest sole that we've looked at so far. We've got a lot more being covered up on the back. Tell us about what's going on inside this head.
So within this head, we've got the Packer cup face, which is obviously allows us to weld it a little bit further back, allows the face to flex a little bit more. We've also got a VOC channel, which is a velocity optimization channel. It runs right behind that face, again to allow that face flex. Incorporate that with Packer cup, so Packer 360 kind of around within our drivers, allows for maximum forgiveness and ball speeds. So a lot of technology built into this head, all kind of maximize distance for that golfer that needs it.
And because of all that technology, we're also going to get a lot more forgiveness off these off-center strikes.
And that's that Packer aspect to it.
Yeah. And more surface area. It's a bigger unit than these others.
100%. Yeah.
First impressions, Thomas. We've got a big change here in head shape, lots more technology going on. What are your thoughts?
This is definitely thicker. Feels like when I'm coming in like this, it's definitely harder close my club face as I come down.
And that's a legitimate thing, you know. Blades are much easier to, work and shut the face down, and these things are designed to be more stable for that player who hasn't got that ability, right?
Exactly. Yeah. This is more of that consistency factor, whilst getting that distance that they need as well.
Yeah. You've been a great test subject today. You've hit a lot of good shots for us to get data off of. We don't talk a lot about MOI with irons, but this would be the higher MOI of the batch.
Yes,
So
exactly.
It provides that stability, but it kind of, what we're seeing here is these shots just hanging out to the right. It does make it hard for a player to turn it over or square it up.
Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely ones that you get used to it kind of thing, and you start adapting it to the golfer. The golfer starts subconsciously potentially changing his swing to change. So for me, it would be looking at this data and looking how he's working it. I probably wouldn't be putting him into a game improvement iron, but for other golfers, it could be an absolute gem.
Game changer, right? Just helps them just find the middle of the face more often, get through that turf easier.
Exactly.
Wow, that thing sounded hot.
Sounded a little buttery too.
Yeah,
actually.
it did, yeah. It was kind of smooth.
The one big thing that we wanted to make sure is, you know, this is a hollow body design, and it's very hard to find a hollow body that's either feels like a forged or doesn't sound clicky.
Right.
And we made a big, R&D put a big amount of effort and resources to make sure that we get that buttery soft feeling without that clickiness sound.
Tough to do from an engineering
Really tough.
perspective.
Yeah.
Thomas, I think that's good.
Yeah.
Let's review some of this data. It's pretty exciting. So let's debrief. You know, just from your personal perspective, and everyone's going to be different here, which head did you prefer the look and feel of the most?
Probably this one, because this one has like the most range of all.
The most distance?
Yeah, most distance.
Okay, I mean, it's the honest answer, right? We can help guide you here as fitters of what we see with that, but a lot of people come into this scenario like this looking at distance. As a fitter, we might have a different story for you. Yeah. So let's take a look at this data and see what we got. You definitely got the highest ball speed with the Dynapwr, 120 mile an hour on average. That's absolutely huge, right? That is what provided that distance for you. But the trade-off for that, it was the lowest launching at 13 degrees. Still, spin wasn't bad, right? At 4,500, like that's kind of reasonable. And that gave you that 174 carry. And then if we look back through the others, we look at the lowest ball speed, and that was kind of the CB and the Blade. We're only 1 mile an hour apart at that 111, 112 mark. But they offer a lot more for you in that spin characteristic, 5,400 in the Blade and 5,900 in the CB. That's going to provide you stopping power and control on the greens. But compared to that Dynapwr you've got in there, there are basically 15 to 20 yards difference in carry. That's pretty huge. But the one in the middle that really stands out for me, offers I think the whole realm for Thomas, is the Forge.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Gives him that 114 mile an hour ball speed, so you still get some good distance. 4,800 RPMs, which is still going to give you that land angle, and 164 carry. So you're longer than what you said right at the beginning, that 150 range. You picked up a club and a half there. You've still kept your spin characteristics, and it offers a little bit of forgiveness on those mishits.
100%. And when we talk about standard deviations, like standard deviation is just consistency, right?
Yeah.
And the lower the number, the more consistent it is. And I'm looking at, like, anytime you're in the 5 and 5s or the 3s and 3s, we're looking at really good numbers consistently. So not just one hit, but across all shots that you have. I mean, the distance-wise, standard deviations from front to back is really good.
5 yards.
5 yards. So that's really manageable, 100%.
Breaking that down for a golfer really quickly. On the green, if you're aiming at the pin and it's at 164 yards away, Thomas's standard deviation means that his long one might be 170, his short one might be 160, but he's still hitting the front and the back of the green.
Yes.
He's not long over the back or way short. That's what that standard deviation provides you, knowledge of knowing that you can go at the pin where your miss is going to be in a good spot.
Yeah, and what I really like about this is the ellipse, right? So where everything from left to right to left, and then every shot dispersion, we go to that, the tighter one is going to be that staff model blade, but it's spinning more, so anytime you spin more, it's tighter dispersion, at least that's the theory, right?
Right.
And then when you get to your Dynapwr Forge, it's still within a really good dispersion pattern.
Impressive, to be honest with you. Especially with those distance gains, you talk about those clubs that get really hot and then really short.
Yeah.
We didn't really see that. Yes, it had 7 yards, but it's still, we actually had a greater standard deviation of carry with the blade and the staff model because the miss hits, I assume, are dropping off a bit hard.
Yeah, I agree.
You need to be that more ball striker to warrant those clubs a bit more.
Yeah, even though that the blade is like very, very forgiving, and the CB, it's not going to be as forgiving as your Dynapwr Forged.
No.
And that's where we see a lot of golfers gravitating towards, is that Dynapwr Forged players distance category.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for participating today. You've been actually the perfect experiment for us, so we really appreciate your time.
No problem.
Thanks. And we hope that that gave you a great insight into the Wilson iron lineup. There's one iron we missed off, which was the Dynapwr Max. It just wasn't suited for Thomas's game. We hope that giving you the Dynapwr led you into some understanding of what the benefits are for those bigger bodies compared to the smaller bodies. The technology that a Wilson are putting into their irons, super, super impressive. And that's nothing to say about how good they look this year. Awesome stuff, mate.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having us out here.
Head to a Worldwide Golf retail location or worldwidegolf.com to book your fitting for Wilson irons today. Remember, we've been looking after golfers for over 50 years and we're home of the 90-day 100% satisfaction guarantee.